Welcome to the LPTV Broadcasters Association podcast. LPTVBA is a nonprofit organization that champions the growth, innovation, and protection of all divisions of low-power television, or as we like to say, local power television. Our volunteer board is made up of industry leaders who collaborate with technology innovators and policymakers to advance next-generation technologies, advocate for smart regulatory policies, and create new opportunities that deliver hyper-local impact with national-scale reach. Through this podcast, we bring together industry professionals to discuss FCC developments, legislative and regulatory issues, emerging technologies, 5G broadcast advancements, groundbreaking experiments shaping the future of broadcasting, and the opportunities ahead for our industry. Thanks for listening, and welcome to the conversation.
And happy July from the LPTV Broadcasters Association. This is the July 2026 podcast. We have World Cup going on, and we have World Cup in the world of LPTV. I am Super Frank Copsidas, known as the founder and chairman of LPTV Broadcasters Association. And with me, as always, is the one and only, the superstar, the magnificent and infamous Bill Christian.
Infamous.
Infamous.
So what are we going to talk about, Frank?
I think Shayna wants to talk about a couple things.
I'm Shayna Farr, Director of Membership for LPTVBA. We just want to let you know that if you become a member of LPTVBA, there are many member benefits for these wonderful podcasts, webinars, meetings. We advocate for LPTV, low power television, but we like to call local power television. We advocate with at the government, with the FCC. We experiment with new broadcasting techniques. We keep you up to date on everything you need to know, LPTV.
Well, I think the first thing we should discuss, which you're very much involved in, Shayna, is our exciting news that we have a free certificate for ATSC 3.0 for our members. So normally you have to license the certificates on an annual basis, but for our members, it's free. It's a partnership with SiliconDust.
Yes.
And that's who's offering our members a free certificate. So to get that free certificate, Shayna, you call the 800 number on the screen. Is that it?
Yeah.
In the next 5 minutes?
But you can go on to lptvba.org, join, become a member, and then you'll see the wonderful benefit on the member portal page for special offers. If you're already a member, log on to your member portal page. You'll see the offer under special offers. But if you forgot your password, just click forgot password or reset password, and it'll send you a new link to reset your password, and you're good to go.
And next thing you know, you have a free version of the ATSC 3.0 SiliconDust certificate. So we want to thank Nick over at SiliconDust working with us. This has been in the works for a while, and we finally have it out there.
A lot of people, have said, well, this association seems to be very pro 5G broadcast, and we keep saying, well, no, it's pro everything, pro technology, just anti being restricted from broadcasting this or that. But this clearly is a pro ATSC 3.0 benefit for any member of this association.
Yes, and actually, that's a great segue to my visit to the FCC last week. And I went there with Shayna, and we met with the Media Bureau, and in there was Alex Angenis, who's the new chief of the Media Bureau, Hillary DeNegro, who's the deputy chief of the Media Bureau, David Brown, who is the chief of the Video Media Bureau, and Kevin Harding, Mark Colombo, engineers. And what was really interesting this time in meeting is we had the policy department with us. So that's headed by the chief of policy is Maria Malarkey, Lyle Elder, and Evan Baranoff. 3 people from policy were in our meeting.
Well, that shows the strength of the association and the relationship that has been built with the FCC. Because, and I know you met with other people there beyond this, but that is the largest group out of the Media Bureau, I think, that's ever sat down and met with low-power TV operators in one place that I know of. And it seems like every time you go, there's more and more interest. And that's kudos to you.
Thank you. It was a very positive meeting. It was basically our debriefing of where we stand as LPTV. But one of the first things we pointed out was, and I'm going to read it from the ex parte that we filed, is LPTV Broadcasters Association firmly believes its members, licensees, have the intelligence, and I stress that word intelligence, to decide which broadcast standard is right for their community and best serves the public interest, despite disrespectful industry comments to the contrary. We feel that, and I know I strongly feel, that our members should decide which standard they want to use, whether it's ATSC 1.0, 3.0, 5G broadcast, or anything else that comes up in the future. Why be dictated to? And there's no reason for it other than self-interests of people who want to make money off of the standard. And in the case of 3.0, the standard is privately owned, most of it. You need licensing fees. You have to pay for things. What we like about ATSC 1.0 or 5G broadcast is you don't have those licenses.
And there's a big difference between full power stations and low power in this respect. So many full power stations have taken the plunge, made the investment to go to ATSC 3.0, and in my opinion, they have to, as a matter of, because so much of their business and livelihood is based on sports rights, sports broadcasting. They have direct paths to cable systems, which is a direct path to your home. They have developed channel sharing so that they can keep their legacy business going while they develop the new business. But there's a massive shortfall in terms of receivers of where you can get it. You know, there's 0 mobile phones that can get it, and there's like 95% of the television receivers in America cannot get that. So for a low power station that doesn't have the path through the cable system or through channel sharing and doesn't have that as their main business, to switch from 1.0 to 3.0 is basically to take all of your current viewers and customers and say, you're gone, and now I'm going to have 5% of that available. So that's the tricky conundrum that's different, in my opinion, for low power TV versus full power. And I think, Frank, you've had the experience where you had in Boston a station that you did spend the money and the time and the effort to go to 3.0, and then you decided after a while to switch it back. I have recently purchased 3 stations that are broadcasting currently in 3.0, and we're in the process of converting them back to 1.0. So, you know, there's something not quite right if a station operator says, I'm spending this money, I want to go to this new format, and then they try it for a while, and you look at your profit and loss statement and say, wow, I can't make any money on this. And, you know, low power stations operate on such a thin margin anyway. To just take that leap and spend money and time to do it, it's tricky. And that's a big, you know, thumbs up, in my opinion, for ATC 1.0. It's a standard. It gets into everybody's TV, and, you know, there ain't nothing terrible about it. It doesn't have a lot of the bells and whistles that 3.0 has, and we salute those bells and whistles. But if you don't have receivers, it's a it's a tricky business model. And digital rights management has been a big, burdensome issue. On the one hand, the broadcasters want to protect their copyrighted material they've paid a lot of rights fees, a lot of money in music fees for, and they don't want people to just steal it. But on the other hand, there's a lot, it seems like every different set has a different way of funneling out the DRM information, and some stations end up just not existing. You live in New York City, don't you have issues with getting some, like, big 4 network affiliates?
Yes, even under ATSC 1. I get, it seems like I get 3 of the 4 no matter where I place the antenna, but it's not the same 3.
So in your FCC meeting, I want to take 1 second and do a shout out. There's a guy who recently left the FCC His name is Evan Morris. A lot of you may know his name and have had contacted him. He was a lawyer in the Media Bureau for a number of years. Nice guy. The thing that I just want to say is I found that I'm sure there's a lot of people that didn't agree with every decision that he made or thing that came down from him, but I found him to be incredibly accessible, very reasonable, thoughtful. He was involved in granting the very first 5G broadcast license in America, which came to my station and was powered by XGen Network. And he's since been involved in granting, I would say 15 to 20 new 5G broadcast licenses. He could have just said, nope, that's not a thing we do.
Right.
You're out. And instead, he also didn't just blanket approve them. He went back and forth and probed and asked questions to learn about the technology, and then to come back and say, okay, could you explain it this way? Could you change it this way? And he was extremely helpful. And I just say, thank you. He showed up at meetings. He came to Las Vegas and spoke to the Low Power TV Broadcast Association meeting, even when he was on his way out. He could have ignored that, and he didn't. And I say kudos to you. Congratulations. Thank you, Evan Morris.
Yes, Evan worked his way up. He was deputy chief of the Media Bureau, and he made, let's call it a foxy move, over to Fox.
So what else went on in that meeting? Anything good? Or you also met with another commissioner staff, chief of staff.
Yes. Chief legal for Commissioner Trusty, and we went over the same agenda that we had with the Media Bureau. And there are a couple things of note that have happened. Number one, France is rolling out 5G broadcasts. They just ordered and installed, actually got delivery and installed, a number of 5G broadcast transmitters in France as they go to 95% of France being covered by 2029. Italy just put out a proposal for grants. So the government is giving out grants to develop 5G broadcast to the broadcasters in Italy. And we're seeing a lot more activity in the EU, in other countries, as 5G broadcast starts to ramp up there. I think IBC, which is the International Broadcasters Convention, which is in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, in September, will be very interesting this year.
And you're seeing a lot of the technology on the transmit side seems just be more and more solid every day, more and more vendors. It was something that was really tricky to figure out 2-3 years ago. And you got to remember, this technology is really still brand new, but it's based on a worldwide standard. So unlike ATSC 3.0 15 years ago when it started up, we don't have to figure out what all the rules are and what the technology is. That's already decided by the International Standards Committee. So that has made this technology grow really, really fast, in my opinion.
Yes, agreed. And I think on the transmit side, we're well taken care of. We're solid on that side at this point. But on the receive side, it's still a challenge. But I think IBC is going to be the can opener, so to speak, of receivers. We'll see
because
solutions.
The chips are on their way, right?
Chips are on their way. So it's the current model of chips that are on the way, not necessarily the R19. R19 is release 19 from the 3GPP standards, which has our band 112, European band 113, and just as important, if not the most important, is FEMBMS, which puts through 60 to 70% more throughput than the current EMBMS. So rumor has it that band 113 will be in the first iteration of the R19 chips, but band 112 will not be. Now, with that said, these are just rumors, and anything is subject to change in the snap of a finger. But as things stand today, that seems to be what's coming out.
What else are your impressions from the FCC overall?
I think the impressions overall are that we have to be careful to separate ourselves from full power. And why do I say that? And this isn't from a technical standpoint, but more operational, regulatory. Who are we as LPTV versus, oh, we're just the stepchild being dragged along with full power, which has basically been what's happened over the last 20, 30 years. So full power at this point is married to ATSC 3.0, as we discussed, and they're stuck in there. But let's take 3.0 that, say that that's great technology. The question is, what do you do with that technology? What is going over the air? So the problem right now is linear streaming and content. So what do you do to think out of the box? How things are not going to stay the same, period. Everybody can wish it, hope that it stays the same until they retire, whatever the story is. But it is changing, and it's changing rapidly. So how do you make whatever standard you're on more relevant to your local community? So you have people like Scott Centers, which we showed at NAB, who, yeah, we talk about the fact that kids aren't interested in linear television or television broadcasting because they've been on YouTube and everything else. Well, Scott's proving that is absolutely not true. And he has not one, but 2 high schools now interested in doing local programming. And it isn't 2 nerdy kids. It's a group of kids from each school that's getting passionately involved in broadcasting. So there's a lot of hope. Now, at the same time, I was on a PUC, Public Utilities Commission board in Connecticut with Spectrum for an area of Connecticut. And we had public access studios located in the Spectrum facility. And we were lucky to get like 2 kids every time the program ran, which was twice a year. There was no passion, no interest. But the people behind it wanted everything to be the way it's always been. They didn't want to look at anything new. They didn't want to look at, oh, you use your iPhone to interview Bill out on the road. No. It had to be in the studio. It had to be recorded. So kudos to Scott for really coming up with a program. And something like that on linear streaming is thinking, I don't want to say it's thinking out of the box. It's actually going back to the roots and getting excited again about what can be done with the broadcast other than linear 30s, 60s. And when I tuned into the Jimmy Awards I was watching for Broadway, the ads were 30 seconds long, but no one ad was more than 10 seconds, most of them 5. So on YouTube, it was 5 seconds, 5 seconds. And it has a countdown clock, and after 20 seconds, 25 seconds, I can skip. That kept me glued to the TV. That's being innovative. How do you keep viewers
This creativity has been the hallmark of the low power broadcasting industry since its inception. A lot because it was forced to be creative. A lot of mom and pops without a lot of money but a lot of great ideas who had to find a way to serve the community or do something different, whether it was, showing having high school kids do stuff or doing a religious niche or a different language programming. This has been the hallmark of low power TV, is doing different things. Whereas, and I spent a lot of years in the, with big 4 TV stations, and a lot of that's just cookie cutter. This is what we do. Every ABC affiliate looks the same and does the same kind of thing. And this is the strength of low power, and it's certainly a pioneer in new technologies, from the hybrid FM channel 6 stuff that Venture Technology is doing, to 5G broadcast, to just creative programming ideas. That's what makes it kind of fun. And that's what's needed to survive.
Without question. And let's go back to Scott's high school kids, Now, instead of having to go home and watching it on TV, now with 5G broadcast, it's on their smartphones wherever they go. Now you're addressing delivery to where your consumers, where your viewers actually want to consume it. So that's why we're excited about 5G broadcast, of bringing it to the next level. How do we get a younger generation involved? The same thing happened as an analogy, when I started managing James Brown, there were two generations that had gone by that had no clue who he was. So how our challenge was, how do you get those two generations to know who he is? So we got involved with people from those generations to lead us, to guide us, to help us get his name out there. Why does he matter? The same thing in broadcasting. We need to get a younger generation involved and listen and say, maybe we have to change the way we've done things for the last 50, 100 years.
It seems like the board of directors of the LPTVBA is very busy cooking up different schemes. I know there's a lot of discussion right now about how to approach the it seems like there might be an opening to request more power for stations, and there's a lot of discussion and work behind the scenes with engineers and working group to figure out how to best approach that with the government and maybe find a way to give more signal. And I think that the issue on that is you know, if you have a 15 kilowatt station that's up against a 1 megawatt station, it's just getting blown out. It isn't necessarily that the stations need to expand their contours. They may not be able to because of interference anyway, but to push more power down, to penetrate the walls and the roofs and the buildings, and or get to a portable device and a phone where a lot of people don't have an antenna on their roof or even in their attic.
Yeah, I think that power is punch, and the more punch we have, the better off our signal is. The further it goes. So, right. You know, I think you're right in that. We need to look at how to increase power, but also we get into the question, technical coverage of LPTV that we discussed in the session at NAB, which is also DAs for urban area. DA, distributed antennas. So most high-rise buildings built, let's say, from the mid-'80s, early '90s on, have glass that reflects RF. One of the reasons I'm having problems in Manhattan receiving the big four all at the same time, because the glass blocks it. So with DAs, it's a part of fire code regulation that they retransmit cell, and now there's talk of retransmit 5G broadcast in a building. So all of a sudden, your transmitter is not going to have to penetrate a building in an urban area. It has to be able to reach the antenna on the roof of the building. It's kind of, think of it as the old cable system, closed circuit cable in the building. But,
wirelessly, though.
Right, wirelessly. Correct. So I think there's really exciting coverage for the future in between DA, also with fillers, because if you have a megawatt station broadcasting, you're still going to have dark spots in there. You're going to have gaps. You have a hill, you have a building, you have something blocking. Because as we all know, if you climb to your antenna on a tower with a pair of binoculars, what you see is what you get. You don't see it, you don't get it. So right. If your house is behind the mountain, you're not going to get it. So how do we fill in? With translators and DTS in many different ways. But that is the beauty of LPTV, is how we can fill in. So I see it going down the line is not only filling in with those type, but with DA as well in urban areas.
Yeah, so I think that's an ongoing discussion with that group.
Definitely.
What's bugging you these days, Frank?
I'm amazed at what's going on between the networks and their affiliates, and you were in that world a long time. So interested to hear your take on this. I see the networks having gone this way probably during after the pandemic, of taking away the rights of the local stations and making sure they couldn't put the local station on their local app. And what I find really interesting is, for example, WABC in New York. If you go to their app, it's 24-hour news. It is not what's shown over the air. So they've been wise, and then ABC, Disney has Hulu and Disney Plus. Now Fox is going to have Roku and Paramount Plus, and everybody has their own platform that they have been building. They're consolidating now. It's been crazy the past couple of years with how many different platforms you needed to subscribe to. That's all consolidating. So viewership is more directed towards online, and the networks have kept that online for themselves.
For sure. And there's always been tension between the affiliates and the network, but it definitely has reached a whole new level. There was a filing just last week looking for help and looking for classification of some of the OTT platforms to be classified as an MVPD, because it's just a whole different negotiation. For the local TV stations, negotiate directly with the traditional cable platforms, and then a cut of that ends up going to the network. With the over-the-top ones, the Hulus and those kind of things, that's negotiated by the networks, who give whatever piece they feel like to the affiliates. And as that has switched and is growing more toward the OTT people, it's caused some real financial hardships for especially smaller, medium groups, but it could be big groups too, because you also have this cord cutter thing, so there's retrans revenue going down. And the whole thing is, the problem is the industry has to keep evolving. The technology has moved quickly, the consumers have moved quickly, and the people running legacy stations and the government have not been able to keep up with that. So there's a big tug of war going on. And I think the Fox purchase of Roku is just going to take that to the next level.
And I think if you ask me what irritates me is hearing broadcasters say, we want things to remain the same. And we want the government to regulate the fact that everything stays the same. Well, everything's not going to stay the same.
Yeah.
So you need to figure out a way to make it work. And what I'm proud of, very proud of, is that LPTV has figured out its way to move into the future. So, Bill, I want to thank you, Ed, for being my partner in podcast world. It's fun, always fun to speak with you. And what are we going to talk about next month?
Well, I think things are changing so rapidly in the low power world, in the regulation and the technology. We don't even know, but happy to sit down and just talk about the most current things going on. And I think people can feel free to send a suggestion.
Please
of something
do.
They want to know about.
And Shana, where do you send suggestions?
You send suggestions to podcast@lptvba.org.
Great.
Thank you for listening to the LPTV Broadcasters Association podcast. If you have any questions or comments about this conversation, please email podcast@lptvbai.org. If you believe in the future of low power or local power television, we invite you to become a member of the LPTV Broadcasters Association. Your membership helps us advocate on your behalf in Washington, provide critical industry education, advance new technologies, and create opportunities that strengthen and grow our industry. Simply put, the work we do is made possible by the members we serve. Together, we can ensure that local television remains innovative, relevant, and impactful for generations to come.